Okay, Sacramento housing prices have been all over the place, and we're starting to see a lot of price reductions in the market. Is the market still hot or not? And what are we going to do about it? Going live now. Hey everybody, welcome to Sacramento's Real Estate Channel, where we talk everything there is to know about the brand new builds and of course, what there is to do here in Sacramento. If you've been thinking about making a move to the area, subscribe to the channel. And just so you know, we go live every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. We'll see you there. All right, guys, welcome. It is another wonderful Tuesday evening here in Sacramento. Today, we're going to talk about the Sacramento housing prices. Are housing prices going down? And is the price wrong? Right now, especially, we're seeing a lot of price reductions in the marketplace. A lot of homes are doing price reductions, so we're going to cover that. There's also a few topics we're going to cover tonight. So sellers overpricing their homes is going to be the number one. Number two, are buyers finally getting some breathing room in the market? And number three, are new builds still hot or not here in Sacramento? So we're going to get through all three of those today, guys. And make sure that you let us know if you have any questions or a concern in the chat down below. We'd love to hear from you and address those as we go through the live. And always, you could comment on the video if you're seeing this after the live. Let us know a question, and we'll definitely bring it up on a future broadcast and answer that for you. So let's get into it. Are sellers overpricing their homes right now? And so I really want to get into that because things have been shifting lately. We are now definitely in a new market, right? We're not in the same market that we've been seeing the last few years, the super hyper sellers market, as we call it, a hyper sellers market where you can just post a house, get it sold, not even have to think about it. You post it and you just honestly wait for the buyers to roll in. Well, we're in a new market right now and things are changing. So I'm glad you guys are jumping in today. We're going to really get into it. Are sellers overpricing their homes? And what's the deal with all these price reductions? So we're seeing way too many sellers overpricing their homes. I'm going to show you guys a stat, but basically almost 10% of all the active listings in the last month did some sort of price reduction. And if you guys have been watching the channel, last week I reviewed exactly how much percentages of homes are doing price reductions and what percentages of closed homes are still getting at the list price and what percentages are still getting over the list price, right? So right now, what I like to kind of show people is that it's a hot and cooled off market at the same time. Some homes are selling like this on the first weekend, first couple days, other homes taking weeks to sell. And we're going to talk about the differences between these homes and what's hot and what's not, right? So the first thing I want to break down is, are sellers overpricing their homes? And absolutely, yes, they're overpricing. A lot of people right now are coming to the market kind of trying to get that last squeeze out of their property, right? They've ridden the equity wave. They've seen a lot of cash hit the account in a way, right? They're already counting the dollars that they're making, and they're overpricing the home for the neighborhood, and they're overpricing, more importantly, for the new market. Most people are still under the impression that where we're at, even 6 months ago, they saw John down the street sell their home 6 to 8 months ago for $1 million. Now they're expecting $1.1 million, $1.2 million. That is just not the same thing anymore. We are in a new market, and we're going to go through that today. Also, I am really happy to see my buddy Ben on the channel. Ben has actually been on one of our live streams before. He is a local property manager with Rent Pros here in Roseville, servicing all over Sacramento. These guys are stellar. So I'm going to drop into that question here in a little bit. But yes, we're seeing sellers overpricing their homes. It's kind of like in a hot market and things start changing. People are like, you know what? This might be the change of the tide. It's time for me to really cash out and really work this property for all it's worth. Well, that's the thing. That's the wrong approach for this market. In the new market, you can't do that. 6+ months ago, you could do that. You could very well overprice your home and still probably get that price, if not even more on top. There is just such a different pulse now. Pricing right, pricing fair market value is more important than ever. And I've talked about the 3 conditions of getting your home sold, right? Price, condition, and marketing, right? All 3 of those really matter now when getting a home sold, especially if you're going for the top dollar. If you're trying to really get top dollar for your property. So yes, sellers are definitely overpricing their homes. We're seeing a lot of price reductions. We're seeing still a few people not getting the idea that you have to adjust for this new market. Now, have the prices really gone down to where you're losing and you need to do this whole fearful sale tactic. No, like the sky is not falling. Stop reading the headlines, get away from the news, watch my YouTube channel, and you'll be informed. The sky is not falling, but pricing correctly and making sure that your home is in good condition before putting it on the market are going to go a long way right now. Stop shooting for the highest price, right? We've been in this hyper sellers market where you could literally just take the top 3 to 5 comps in a neighborhood. Literally, I've seen people do this. They just see what's been selling, sometimes not even what's sold, what's active, and they'll pick the top 3 to 5 highest prices in the neighborhood and literally list at that. Well, you can't do that anymore because that is your property is not the same as the highest ones in the neighborhood. Now, granted, if you've spent a crazy ton of money on your landscaping, your interior remodel, your kitchen, your baths, sure, you can get there. But now being an average home in the neighborhood and you're trying to get a top dollar price is just not going to stick anymore. And what I'm going to see in this market right now, especially if you're a seller, the cream will rise to the top. Okay. The cream's going to rise to the top. Right now, when the market's shifting, things are kind of cooling off. All these part-time agents that kind of did it they said for friends and family, it was their side hustle, that they were a real estate agent because everything they touched turned to sold. I love when people use that phrase, right? It turned to sold because it was a hyper seller's market, not because of skill or your negotiation, right? So now the cream is going to rise to the top. All the agents that are actually performing and know the market and are doing sales and are informing their clients are going to rise to the top. Everyone that's kind of been a part-time agent selling just because the market was super crazy, we're going to start seeing those people fall off. We're going to start seeing those sellers too with the crazy prices kind of fall off because they understand now they can't sell their property for that price anymore. And we're starting to see the new market. Okay. So right now, really who you work with matters more than ever. And we're going to start seeing this more and more, that agents that are actually producing, that are in the game, right, that maybe didn't get as noticed because the market was so crazy and everybody was selling and everybody was posting another house sold, another house sold, another house sold. Now it's really going to matter because negotiation is going to be coming in clutch more than ever. And that has to do with when we're selling your property and also when we're buying. So today, I also mentioned how buyers are going to have a little bit more breathing room in this new market as well. And we're already seeing it. We're negotiating like crazy for closing costs, different incentives, and we're also seeing an adjustment on the new builds market. So stay tuned. I'm going to hop into those. So really quick, Ben posted right here, landlords are also overpricing their rental homes. We're seeing rents drop and more price reductions on rental side as well. Okay. So really interesting to hear that from a property manager in our local area. Again, they service a ton of units. And it's really interesting to see that they are overpricing their rental homes and starting to see those rental prices drop, right? A lot of people right now, I'm also seeing, just the way inflation and the cost of everything is just going through the roof, right? With gas, groceries. I mean, I can't walk out without buying some yogurt and still spending $100 somehow, right? So these things are adding up like crazy and people are starting to be very price conscious. And when everybody is price conscious, they start deciding like, is it worth overpaying on these certain items? Well, with housing, sometimes it is, right? I think housing is still very strong. I've seen housing still very strong. Stuff is still selling in every price point. We're talking entry level, 500,000 up to the $1.5 million mark and up. Market's still moving along. People are still buying and selling. So what I'm really talking about is the people that have overpriced their homes, right? In the luxury market, sometimes like in Serrano right now, in a gated community, we're talking about custom homes, pushing that $2 million mark. To see $100,000 price reduction, maybe even $200,000 is not really out of the ordinary. Right now, that's becoming pretty normal. But again, it was that seller or maybe that uninformed realtor that's representing that property that they just kind of overshot to begin with. And this is really just not the market to be doing that anymore. Pricing it right goes a long way. So also, if you're a buyer in this market and you've been kind of considering, you've been kind of maybe beat down with the crazy pace of the market the last 6-12 months or so, kind of been waiting to get in. Yes, rates are higher. I get that. Things are a little bit more expensive for the same home. I get that. Trust me. We've talked about that and the different payments that causes. But the amount of craziness and the overbidding is definitely settling down. Whereas I used to maybe, let's say on a median price home in Sacramento, would get like 7 to 10 offers. Right now, we were seeing more like 3 to 5. Okay. And let's say that home was, expected to get like 3 to 5 offers. Now we're seeing maybe 1 or 2 if you're lucky. Okay. So the amount of negotiation you're going to have to do and overpaying and waiving your appraisal contingency, that stuff has definitely simmered down quite a bit. Now, on certain properties that are like absolutely beautiful, the craziest beautiful landscape, best location ever, one of a kind unicorn homes, those still sell like hotcakes. So again, it's a hot and cooled off market at the same time. I've gotten comments before of guys like, so you're saying it's hot and cold at the same time? Yes, exactly. And it's really hard to explain because we're going through that shift into a new market. And it really is depending on like location, condition of the home, desirability of that home. Whereas it was, the last 6 months plus, the last few years, it was just like a level playing field. Like ugly houses sold for top dollar. And people were like, we just want to get into a house. We don't care. Now that the pulse has changed, right? Buyers are being I would say a little bit more particular about the home. They want it to really have all the things that they're looking for in a home before writing that offer. So the pulse has definitely slowed down. What does this mean to you as a seller? You're going to have to be more negotiable. You're going to have to be willing to give some credits, do some repairs in the process to get that transaction to close, transaction to stick, right? And as a buyer, this is now giving you more breathing room in the market because even just this week, actually, in fact, yesterday, there's a property. We're helping this sweet family, first-time home buyers, still just kind of getting warmed up to the market. We got them in contract on this great starter home. And there was some stuff going on in the inspections, which we were fine with. They wanted to move on. But we still ended up negotiating them $8,000 towards their closing costs, right? So they're getting an $8,000 credit towards their closing costs. Now, basically, most of the money that they have to come into the deal with is essentially just their down payment money, right? So that's a huge win. But the seller realized the tide is changing. And with the right negotiations, you can make that happen for yourself as well. So especially in the resale market, definitely some more breathing room for buyers right now. And I'd love to hear from you guys. I know some of you guys are in the market shopping or maybe even selling your property. I'd love to hear some feedback from you in the chat, seeing what you guys are experiencing out there, because there's one thing to go over data and graphs and trends in the market, and we do that weekly. Data is very important, but it's another to be in the market. What pulse are you seeing? What are you feeling, right? Different price points, different locations really respond differently, especially in this market right now. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And again, it's not the same market. Now, if you're looking for a deal in this market, I'm going to give you a tip. If you're looking for a deal in this market, I hope this doesn't offend somebody, but be a pig, not a hog. Someone just shared that with me just 2 weeks ago, one of my good buddies. Be a pig, not a hog. Look for a good deal, scavenge for a good deal, but don't be so greedy that you miss out on the deal, right? This happened to my friend. We were doing an off-market transaction. He was getting a property, and he was kind of sharing this with me, and he's like, look, the seller was willing to sell it to me for a crazy price. The home needed some serious remodeling. He's like, I had a sweet deal. I had a ton of margin on the home where I could remodel it, still have some equity. I was like, great. He's like, I started being a hog though. I started trying to really nickel and dime him and get every dollar down. He's like, as soon as I started doing that, we started going back and forth on negotiations. The seller changed his mind, decided to get another realtor involved. Boom, they jumped the price on him up $30,000 from what he could have bought it for if he just settled, took the deal, and ran with it, right? So now he's paying an extra 30 grand on top just to make it happen, just to make it stick. So be a pig, not a hog in this market. And so I know that's kind of a silly example, but I hope that helps you guys, that make sure that you're getting a good deal, fight for a good deal, but don't be so greedy that you miss out on that deal. And then, a few weeks after doesn't work out, doesn't stick, you're kicking yourself, wishing you just picked up that property and ran with it, right? At the lower interest rate or whatever it might be. That's another thing right now. Most people are anticipating. They're kind of waiting for the market, right? We're seeing a lot of scary headlines. Again, if you read a lot of those articles, it's a lot of fluff. If you actually pay attention to what is being said in the article, is a lot of fluff right now, a lot of fear in the marketplace. So guys, relax. The real estate market is still very, very strong here in Sacramento. I'm in it every day. I'm working 6-7 days a week right now, just trying to keep up. In fact, June is going to be the busiest month for me this year. We have so many closings. Even right after this, I'm going to shut down this live. and I'm going to drive to West Sacramento and congratulate one of our buyers on purchasing their home. It's a newer home, only 2 years old, basically a brand new build in a community. We're celebrating, dropping off the gifts, taking pictures, shaking hands, kissing babies, doing all the fun stuff, right? So things are still closing, things are still moving. So do not get too tied up in whatever the headlines are saying, and also maybe that part-time realtor again that closed like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 deals in a year. They don't have a pulse on the market. Selling a few homes a year does not have a pulse on the market. I get my information from people who are rocking and rolling every day of the week, right? Who are really doing it, selling it, and then you really see how are buyers responding right now? How are sellers responding? What's hot, what's not in the market? Okay. So I want to talk about, everyone is talking about the house prices going down, right? Well, I wanted to show you this really quickly. And this is some data from Redfin. And if you pay attention to that upper chart, you see that black line, that's 2022 this year, just spike up like crazy. And that's referencing the last month. So based on this graph, it's saying that within the last month, 9.7% of all the active listings did some sort of price redrop. Okay, this is according to Redfin's data center for the Sacramento regional market. Now, if we compare that to last year, which is that orange bar right under, they only had about 3.7% of the listings do a price drop at this time of the year. So as you can see, we've seen a major spike in price drops, and early too, right? Because you see that in about 2 months, that would naturally happen. There's an upward tick on the orange line of price reductions. But you're seeing here, it's coming early, earlier than it should really, and definitely a more dramatic pace. So about 9%, 9.7% of all the active listings in the last month did some sort of price reduction. Now, if you guys have been paying attention, price reductions don't necessarily mean that home prices are going down. Those are the active listings doing a price reduction. Again, a lot of those were sellers not accounting for the new market, still overpricing, still picking the top comps for the neighborhood, still trying to squeeze that property for all it's worth. Agents also not informing their clients, look, this is a new market. This is where we need to price. You can no longer go for highest and best in this market. So I'm even seeing, because I'm watching a lot of those tickering down. You're starting to see some sort of reductions. Okay. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the homes that are selling are doing price reduction or are closing at a lower dollar amount. If you guys were paying attention to last week, I showed you guys the median prices for every month. In fact, the median prices increased last month. They increased last month. The median sold prices increased last month, right? So you're seeing these price reductions, but the stuff that's actually selling, the stuff that's priced right, is still selling at the price, if not above. Okay, so it's still kind of a mixed market right now. Don't get me wrong. It's a little bit of a mixed market. But again, the data, it just depends what data you're paying attention to, can really give you the narrative in this market. And so that's what you got. I want you guys to be kind of cautious of, is that the data that you're watching can really change your opinion on the market. It either gives you a fearful mentality, the market's going down, or it's like, hey, while there's a little bit of fear in the market, I could take advantage of this, right? That's the other thing, is that buyers are getting that breathing room, because the sellers that are recognizing it, they're realizing, whoa, shoot, my home is not selling in the first 3 to 5 days. What's going on? We're seeing a lot of price reductions even done in the first week. If you're price reducing your property in the first week, something is wrong. And it usually has to do with the price or condition of the home, right? So pay attention to that. And I would even say, as a buyer in this market, if you're starting to see homes over like 2, 3, 4 weeks on the market, that seller is probably going to be a little bit wearied down. They're worried about, hey, can we really sell this property? Is it overpriced now? I don't think it's overpriced. And of course, they're trying to talk themselves into that it's not overpriced and things like that. This is a time where you can plant a seed and maybe pick up that property on a much lower price, or negotiate them to get you some closing cost credits. Okay. So negotiation right now is becoming a lot more available to buyers. So if you guys are active in the market, make sure you're pushing on those things, paying attention to these things in the marketplace. Now, I wanted to also kind of talk about the new builds market. As you guys know, this channel shows a lot of the new construction going on in Sacramento and around. We get a lot of our clients calling us wanting to buy new construction. But the thing is this, now that we've entered this new market, there's been a shift. And at the same time, there's been other shifts, right, that aren't necessarily related to real estate directly. But for instance, the stock market recently took a big hit, right? And not a lot of people that I've realized are not cash rich, they are equity rich. Okay, so that means they got a lot of stocks, they might have some properties, that are rich in equity, what other investments that maybe have drifted up in values. So they're equity rich, but they're not cash rich. And what matters is that cash is king. And when you have cash in the bank, it's much different than when you have cash in the stock market. So right now, it's a little rough because a lot of our clients are in tech, heavily invested in stocks, especially from the Bay Area, moving out this way. A lot of them were getting new builds, and now they're like, oh shoot, stock market's not doing as well. I don't know if I should move forward on this property, right? So it's unfortunate, but these things are happening, right? And so the new builds, I found out, they're not being as hot anymore. And we knew this was coming even before the rates came up. And that's another huge component of why the new builds aren't as hot anymore, is because a lot of our clients were in contract already like 6, 7, 8 months waiting for their new homes to be built. And maybe they were getting priced at about a 3.5% interest rate. Now their rates are pushing 5% or more if they didn't do a rate lock. So as you can see, that changes your monthly payment drastically. Now, home prices overall haven't necessarily dipped down, but when you're buying a premium price property because it's brand new, right? And you're paying now a higher interest rate, like it could get pretty expensive really quickly. So definitely seeing cancellations in the new build market right now. Definitely seeing a lot more opportunity with new builds. Whereas, man, I remember even a year ago, it was hard to even just get them to pick up the phone. Now they're calling me. Now they're emailing me like, hey, Sam, if you have any buyers, we know you sell a lot of new construction in the Sacramento area, blah, 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 blah. We know you had this client, this client, this client. Do you have anyone else that would be willing to purchase here? So right now, we're starting to see the negotiation kind of coming back at them. And we're starting to get closing cost credit, incentive towards design upgrades in the studio. So definitely right now is a good time to pay attention to the new builds. So I personally think that new builds are not going to be as hot in the next few months. They're getting more inventory. They're getting more quick moving options. Now, if you're strictly focused on brand new, it might be a good opportunity for you, right? For instance, there's a few builders in our area here that are now paying for closing costs like 3% of the purchase price. That's basically covering all of your closing costs and some. Okay. So with that, if you're thinking new build, might be a good time to take advantage while things are kind of going through a shift. And a lot of people, I've even seen, again, cancellations while people are pulling out. Now that home is ready to be on the market and the builder is going to want to sell it off as soon as possible. Now's a great time to get a deal. Okay. So if that's something that interests you guys, again, our channel is all about the new construction. We know all the new construction. We have a list of all the new construction in Sacramento. If that's something you'd like to be added to or be aware of, reach out to me and my team down below. You can always give us a call or a text. So I want to hear from you guys, seeing what you're doing, how the market is treating you. Big shout out to Mark McDonough, good friend of mine. He's also got the #2 YouTube channel in Sacramento. So guys, make sure that you give him a listen, watch his lives. They're great, and gives out some really good news about the Sacramento market as well. So make sure you check that out. Also, I got my good friend Wes on the chat. Data over news. That's right, Wes. So Wes is actually a real estate agent in the Santa Barbara area. Really amazing market. I'd love to move to Santa Barbara. If I could, I would just take off right away. But Santa Barbara is such a vibe. And if you guys are actually looking to purchase maybe an investment property, a vacation property in Santa Barbara, hit up Wes and his team. They do a stellar job. And then on that, we are actually connected. The way we know Wes is we're actually in a mutual network of about 5,000 agents all over the United States. So literally in any major market, I know of someone who is servicing that market, who is a higher producing realtor in that market. So if you're thinking about moving out of state into another city, thinking about Texas, thinking about South Carolina, Tennessee, any of those markets, SoCal, you can reach out to me. I'd be happy to connect you with some of the best agents in those areas and at least pick their brain on if it's a good move for you. So I hope this helps you guys out. I really want sellers to pay attention to the market right now, that this is the time. This is the time to start pricing right, okay? Stop overpricing your homes because it's going to sit on the market and you're going to be kicking yourself. After that home's been on the market for after the first week or two, you've lost all the excitement in the home. The first week is literally the most exciting time for the property to be on the market. If you're not getting offers in that first week, something is wrong. You need to switch up gears and change the pace. just doing another price reduction doesn't always win it. So be careful to price it right. Maybe even price it a little bit aggressively to really get the offers coming in to make people see the value in the home. It's kind of a reverse engineer effect. Again, if you're thinking about selling, you can always reach out to us. I'd love to talk to you about strategy on that. And I got my good friend slash, I don't even know what to call you, Andrew. Thanks for being on the channel. We currently rent. When do you think is a good time? When do you think a good time to buy is? Right now, man, you're on the channel. Make sure you're buying right now. No, honestly, what I tell people is the market is different for everyone, right? People always ask me, how is the market? Well, that's a very open-ended question. Are you a buyer? Are you an investor? Are you a seller? And I'm going to approach that every different way depending on your situation and your family situation. I would say it's a good time to buy because now we're starting to see inventory. In the last month, month over month, we've seen almost a 25% increase in inventory, right? So the amount of homes for sale, actively for sale, we've had an increase of about 25% versus the previous month. Now, that might seem huge. Yes, and it's finally giving opportunity. Maybe the neighborhood or the area you were looking to buy in, you still only have like 1 or 2 homes active on the market. Now we're looking like more 3, 4, 5 homes in that neighborhood. So it's giving you some playroom, right? Again, this is giving you options in the market. So you don't just have, just because you want to be in that area, you don't have to just choose that home, even if you don't like it. So it's giving you some opportunities. Buyers have been for the last few years like, Sam, where's the inventory? There's no houses on the market. Well, guess what? Houses are now coming to the market, and a lot of you are still kind of thinking about it because you're reading the headlines. I personally think that the market's still going to be strong, definitely at least till the rest of this year. Now, we'll see how quickly the rates keep rising. But as far as affordability, yes, 5% rates suck compared to when you were looking at them at 3.5 or lower, right? They suck when you compare it, right? When you're looking in hindsight, it always sucks. But I've showed you guys the rates before that over the last 30 years, the average rate actually was about 8% in the United States. So we're looking at the 5 range. It's not that bad. And I've been telling people that you're going to be kicking yourself in the butt, that if we jump to that 6% mark or more by the end of this year, you're going to really wish you locked in that 5%, right? And so, I mean, the same thing happened with me. I recently purchased a property. And for me, this was more like an investment purchase. And just by waiting literally like 4 or 5 days, my rate jumped up almost 0.5%, just by waiting a few days, right? I was kicking myself. I was like, man, you should have made the decision faster. And so sometimes indecisiveness actually really harms us in the long term. So that's just kind of a little bit of my advice, a little bit of my spiel. It really depends on your situation. If you and your family are looking to buy, and maybe you've been renting, like you said, you're currently rent. I know where you rent. Your house is pretty cool. You guys got a pretty good situation there. But if your rents keep constantly increasing, and now you're looking at your rents and you're like, my rent is literally the amount of what a mortgage would be, plus inflation right now, I think we're only going to see home prices increase throughout this year. I showed you guys a forecast out of the 7 economists that they put together. The average was still about 9% for the United States appreciation for this year, right? So if you're looking at that home at the beginning of this year, expect about a 9% increase of that home by the end of the year. So can you really swallow another 10% increase on a price and then also maybe another percent increase on interest rate? Your affordability is going to drop based on those things. So if you're in the market, you're seeing what you like, you find the house that you like, and it's a good deal and you can negotiate a few, pay some of your closing costs. And if you get even more closing costs, you can buy down your rate a little bit. Worst case scenario, hopefully, I am hoping that rates drop eventually. I don't think they will this year, but maybe in the next year and a half, 2 years. We're seeing some projections about that. Again, I wouldn't bank on that. But if so, at that point, if they're lower than what you currently got your rate at, you just refinance and let it rock. Today, I was also talking with my good friend and client, Kyle, and he was like, man, you were following up with me like crazy to refinance when the rates were at 3%. Because I was calling him like once a month, once every 2 months. We're good friends. He purchased a property looking for investment now. And I'm like, man, refinance. And he was like, man, I'm so glad that I listened to you because I was just kept delaying it and had different situations and different things to pay for. He's like, now looking at the rates, I'm so glad I did do that. And so sometimes really is just it's all about the timing. And one thing I tell people is don't try to time the market. What we've seen Even in the last few years, I had some clients sell off their properties under the impression that the market's going to crash, and they thought it was like their last hoorah to cash out, sit on their cash, and then do really nothing, right? And with that, inflation has been eating their dollars. Plus, when you have cash in the bank, if you're not used to having $100,000, $200,000 in the bank, I know some of you guys are. If you are, call me. We'll take care of you. But some people are not used to having that big amount of money in the bank or whatever whatever increase they got on the property. Now they've been sitting and renting for premium dollar. That money is slowly swindling down, right? Unless you've been investing, unless you've been doing good purchases. But I've heard this multiple stories, so it's kind of unfortunate. I'm sharing with you guys that I'm starting to see those savings slowly swindling down. So sometimes it's better to have the money in a property and not be under this anticipation, like I'm going to cash out when the market crashes. I'm going to keep waiting for the market crashes. There's a famous saying, you don't wait to buy, you buy and wait. Real estate's always been a long-term game. I grew up in real estate as a long-term game. I've told you guys before, my dad's been a broker for over 22 years. I know a lot of people in real estate. I know a lot of older people in real estate. I know a lot of younger people in real estate. I prefer to take advice from the older people in real estate, the ones who've been through it thick and thin, and long-term always wins. Today, I was just actually dropping off a little bit of wine, a little bit of flowers. One of my amazing clients, she might even be watching right now. We've sold already 3 properties for her. She owns a ton of real estate in Sacramento. I mean, this lady is a boss, okay? And I've been honored to do quite a few transactions for her. She's an amazing, wealthy person, knows real estate like the back of her hand. And that's what is exactly what she told me today. I was like, hey, what are your expectations on the market? What do you want to do? I know you got a few more properties. We need to list some more homes this year. Help me out. And she was saying, look, man, it's always been a long-term game. Real estate, buy and hold. Any market, she's like, you'll never know. You'll never get the perfect read. She said, look, stack cash, buy properties. Stack cash, buy properties. That was literally her advice to me today, okay? So it seems so basic. I know it's not as exciting as crypto, but stack cash, buy properties. And so that's what I intend to do. That's my personal philosophy. Hope that helps you guys out. If you guys are currently in the market, not really getting anywhere, still wondering if the realtor you're working with is on your behalf, is fighting for you, reach out to me and my team. I'd love to negotiate a good deal for you any way that we can help you out. You can always give us a call or text down below. Also, if you just need a quick consultation about buying or selling your home, there's a Calendly link. Book an appointment. You got 15 minutes with me. So guys, thanks so much for watching. We are going live every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. It's been such a pleasure. I'm sorry to cut it short, but I actually have to run to West Sacramento right now to do another gift drop off. Congratulate my clients. They might even be watching. They're coming from the Bay Area. Super good to know you guys, and thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.